Hello, welcome to VIP Boxing's Bell to Bell podcast. We're 60 not out this week, 60 episodes and still going strongest, I suppose. And as always, before I introduce myself or anybody, if you can leave a review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you can, thanks very much. As you know, I'm Steve Lillis. I guess with me, my co-host, John Evans. Hope you're well, John. I'm glad for rushing straight in from graft to jump on this podcast, mate. Very good of you as always. Hope you're okay there down the road in darkest
I'm all right, Steve. You just said 60 not out then. We were talking about memory loss just before we came on. You're not a clue to your age, that is it?
I'm putting it down to long-term COVID, even though I've never tested positive. I'm going through bad memory loss, mate. And I'm a couple months for it, that's big 6. So, and what's great, when I am 60 in April, I'll be having the largest non-alcoholic Guinness to celebrate, because I can get a rail card and I can get down to see Fulham cheap. So I'm happy when I'm 60. I'm wishing my life away. Anyway, someone who I think, I don't know if he's wishing his life away or what. He's a great mate of mine. I'm always batting for him, and I know John Evans is too. He was a world super featherweight champion, now a commentator. He's not used enough by all the big supersonic media guns. Barry Jones, you okay, mate?
Yeah, I'm okay, mate. Yeah, I'm living in a box.
Living in a box? What do you mean? Oh, go on.
No, I'm joking. It's just I'm not getting enough work, but I'm fine. I'm okay.
I know. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Do you like my thing on my wall?
What is it? I've just noticed it.
It's a picture from the first date of me and my missus. So that's me, the baby, and that's her carrying me.
Yeah, it's got the same amount of hair, Barry.
Yeah, and the same tiny penis.
Well, when you read Barry's jokes, it's Barry Jones. If you don't recognise him, everyone does. John, you got your clock and everything ready, John.
Everything's ready to go. Yeah.
And round one to you, John. You want to talk about a possible Brit unification?
Yeah, not just a unification. Could the path be cleared for an undisputed British champion at featherweight? We've got Lee Wood against Michael Conlan coming up, a tremendous fight we spoke about last week. We've got Kiko against Josh Warrington a couple of weeks later, another brilliant fight. With Gary Russell losing to Mark Magsayo last weekend in a shock, Magsayo becomes a more viable option for a further unification, and Navarrete has always seemed quite open to it. I just wonder if, for the first time, because I don't think Nassim Hamed held all the belts, is there a route opened up where we could have a British featherweight champion holding all the belts? It seems to me closer than ever. And if you do see it happening, which guy do you think is more likely to come through the pack?
It's a
I tell you what, I think it's wishful thinking, John, that would have for all four. I think we're still a long way from it. What I think we will have, I think I said on this podcast 2 weeks ago when we had Steve Wood on 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think we will see if Lee Wood and Josh Warrington win. I think that's nailed on for Lee's rugby league ground later in the summer. They're not going to get Ellen Road in time because they'll need the pitch by July. I think that's nailed on if they win. If Conlan beats Lee Wood, I don't think it's nailed on at all, because I think Top Rank, they've got the belt. They'll be taking Conlan to Madison Square Garden and they'll keep control of that. There'll be no unification. I think the only chance is Lee Wood. As for Mark Magsayo, he's advised by Sean Gibbons, and they'll go where the money is, mate. They'll go where the money is. They'll go where the dough is.
Navarrete's been open to it all the way.
Yeah, I think we're a long way from it. I don't know what you think, Ban. I do think Top Rank will protect Michael Conlan and get him some defences before he goes in a big fight if he beats Lee Wood.
I think they would, but I also think that they'll realise that he's 30 years of age, and and even though he's fresh, he's still 30 years of age. So you can hold on forever, and I do think that they maybe will think, because they have Navarrete as well, that maybe they'll go that route. So we might get that unification, but in a roundabout way, where if one of them beats Martinez, he might get that Magsayo fight, and then possibly. And then maybe, I think, Conlan and Navarrete is an easier fight to make than some of the others.
Yeah.
But I think Wood versus obviously Warrington. If those two win, then that's an easy fight to make, and you'd think would be made, as you said, Steve, by the summer. And then, but I think the other fights then are more difficult to make. Maybe WBC title might be able to get on board, but I think Navarrete, I'm not quite sure. If anyone wants to fight him, to be honest, and where does it go? And again, Top Rank will want big money, and will they be able to get him over here? I'm not quite sure.
Round two, on to someone else. How not to shape your career, Rich. So I really want to hear from Barry, but obviously you, John, as well from this. It's Gary Russell, lost to Mark Magsayo the weekend. John Pegg warned that he could get beaten at some time because of all this inactivity on the podcast last week. He fights every year, 2 years gap before the Magsayo fight. He went into that fight with injuries, which I'm sure a lot of boxers have told me, good level boxers, and Barry might back me up here. Once you get to 30, you get more and more of these injuries, whether you've been active or not, because of just your body, and you are aging as a sportsman. He's 34 in June, and I think how he's not managed, how his career has gone has been abysmal, really, by him, people that manage him. We were talking last week of all the fights he's missed out on: Santa Cruz, Frampton, Warrington. There was a procession of names. And I think Gary Russell's career, for someone who could have been an A-lister, has been a waste of time. 6 years a world champion, 6 defenses, sounds great, but 5 was his sixth defense he lost. Very disappointing how it's all ended up for. It looks like it's ending up for him.
Yeah, I think it's mad because on his day, he's good enough to beat any of those names you mentioned and a few others. He really is. I'm not saying he would beat them, but he's more than capable of doing that. He's absolutely fantastic. But why would you hold on? Why would you just hold your career to ransom for no reason at all? It's been since he lost to Lomachenko, which is his first world title challenge. Obviously, he won the world WBC title. I think 2 fights after that. I think that's 8 fights in 7.5 years. Bear in mind, you've won a world title. You have a bargaining chip. It's not as if you're begging for a fight. You've got people coming to you. You've got mandatory challenges. And theoretically, you were looking for fights. So there's no reason not to fight. That's like, it's just over one a year. Like, it's not really, it's just absolutely scandalous. I don't know why you would want to do that. I don't know whether he was at the start of the PBC when the money was really good.
Yeah.
And they would all chuck him money.
Him and Furman were right at the start of it.
Well, Lee Selby had really good money for his first defense. I think was in America, and he had really good money. But then it goes down again dramatically because they can't sustain that because the money's got to come from somewhere. And I wonder whether that was his. Once he got paid X amount, that was his. That's my limit. That's what I get paid. That's my quota. And then everyone was offering less money, and he kept turning them down. I don't know that, but I can't think of any other explanation why he would want to be so inactive.
Yeah, there's not long left, but what a crazy decision as well to come in injured with this damaged tendon. He was alluding to the fact he had a damaged shoulder before the fight. The shoulder goes, he has to box 8 rounds, and now he's going to be out for another prolonged period. So he's not going to be able to get back on the horse and avenge his win. It's just a real shame the way it's gone for Gary.
Over to you, Barry. Big domestic fights, and it's looking good.
This is a positive note. This is fantastic. No, we all, Britain, if anything, just remember more for domestic rivalries, for whatever's on the line. It doesn't matter about the titles. And this year, especially this first quarter of the year, we got some fantastic wins. We started off with Eubank Jr. and Liam Williams in Cardiff, so it's going to be a sellout. It's a real gritty, horrible, hard fight. With one's a bit of a narcissist, one's just a horrible animal of a man when he wants to be. And how that can be a good fight. Whoever wins, how that can be a good fight. If that's not a good fight, then I'm not bothered. That's going to be just an absolute war. It has to be. And then we have Cannon Brook. No, there's no relevance on the world scene at all. And they're way past their sell-by date. But it's a fun fight. It is a fun fight. I don't care who wins because it doesn't matter about the world scene. There's no relevance. But it's a fun fight. And it's too late. But I think it'll be a good fight. And it'll be a good fight to watch, I think. And then Taylor and Catchell. I think, that. Don't forget about, also after that, we got Lee Wood and Michael Conlon, if we can call Conlon British. I don't know whether we call him British or Irish, but yeah. I think, but Taylor and Catchell's a really interesting fight because Taylor's, the number 1 by a million miles. He's a huge favourite. But Catchell's waited his turn, and he deserves his shot. and he's tricky. No one gives him a hope in hell, and you can't. But it still might be a fight where he has to show a bit of grit and determination. So, I just think there's 4 domestic fights there before the end of March, which are going to be fantastic to watch.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? And well done, Sky Sports, for getting them together and getting these fights. Hopefully, DAZN and the other channels see the interest that these all domestic clashes have generated and start following the suit, because some of the fights that could be made, I've seen talk, I know, and when talk like this starts, it usually means it's 2 years down the line, but Yard Buatsi, can you imagine Yard Buatsi in September? Just a phenomenal fight, and there's so many there that are just bubbling away, ready to go. Hopefully the broadcasters see what Sky Sports have done, see how interested the fans are, and follow suit.
Sky have set the mark for this year with that what they've got on in February, domestic wise. That is going to take some. But if any channel conquers that, what they've got in February in a month, in what the 11 months we got left of the year, they're gonna be delivered something special. But there's so many little fights as well, smaller fights that you mentioned, big ones. But I like things like Jack Massey, Isaac Chamberlain. It's a fight that show if Isaac Chamberlain is for real. And I'll give you a tiny little one. Again, nothing on the world stage, nothing to the mainstream public, but for geeks like us, we'll watch it. Lennox Clark, Zach Chelly, that's going to happen soon.
Yeah. Oh yes.
They're just going to have it. We're off the domestic scene now, and John wants to talk about someone who's either a golden boy or golden fool. Who is it, John?
Yeah, what do you two think about Ryan Garcia? We've seen him. He's teasing his comeback, isn't he? He's giving out these little hints that he's going to be back in the ring. He's throwing out the usual stuff that he wants a real test. And Isaac Cruz has been mentioned because he gave Davis a good fight, and Ryan's coming out with all the talk again. I'm a man, I'll knock you all out. I think we all know that's not going to happen. He's going to be given a welcome back fight, Ryan, isn't he? Where he can sell his story about the struggles he had outside the ring and the anxiety he felt. Maybe cry in the interview, sell a few pay-per-views, attract a full fan base, knock somebody out with a left hook and then start it all over again. And I'm just starting to worry that Ryan's in the middle of these YouTubers and fighters. He's got such a high profile. He's got such a following. He makes so much money outside the sport, I imagine, from various endorsements. He doesn't really need or want to fight. And there's something there with Ryan. We saw it when he got himself up off the floor against Luke Campbell. Yeah. That was a good win against a good fighter. Yeah. And there's something there. And I think it'd be really sad if we don't see him test himself and don't see just what he's capable of, because he's got it all. He could be the next De La Hoya if he's got it inside himself to push on.
But has he got it? Sorry, Barry, you go on. You're more important to hear from me than me.
Well, that's what I think. Thank you very much. He's not going to be the next De La Hoya. I don't think he's that good, but I do think that he is good. And I wasn't sold on him until the Luke Campbell fight, because he doesn't bend his legs. He does so many things wrong. But he has natural power and super fast hands, so he's lots to work with. But I think you're right, John. I think the fact that he makes money out of outside of boxing, where's the hunger going to come from that you need to compete at that high level? And he's learning from the other YouTubers that you can just talk about without actually fighting anybody and still make plenty of money. And you might just fall into that crowd and that category. And it's just a shame, because he actually is a genuine world-class fighter. But I hope he has ambition still, because I think he can be still a good weight. And it'll disperse soon, though. That's the worry. If they don't get it together this next 12 months, 18 months, that weight will disperse. And it won't be the weight that we were talking about 18 months ago.
Probably. I agree with that. And different him and De La Hoya. De La Hoya, when he was, at a similar stage of his career, he was just talking greatness and the hunger, the desire.
I didn't mean talent-wise. I just meant the package.
But obviously, if the world was different in those days, who knows what De La Hoya would have been like? He was a pin-up. Yeah. You go to a De La Hoya fight in Las Vegas, it was like going to a Take That concert at the same time with female followers. But he's obviously a boxer who thinks, the number of social followers you have is as important as any world title bouts. And of course, he is very, very, very good. You saw that against. Love to have gone on but there you go. Round 5, 15.
Who was it against? You never know.
But anyway, we'll go on about him another week. Round 5, 15 million reasons. Is Anthony Joshua right to accept this 15 million if you know, what I'm hearing is true. Then the offer's genuine. He's close to, you know, he's likely to take it. By Wednesday, this should all be sorted out one way or the other. Wednesday, Thursday, who's fighting who and when. But you know what? I see a few people saying he's not a fighting man, wanting 15 million to step aside. I think it would be a brilliant decision to take the 15 million and step aside. He's getting money in the bank for doing nothing. He's going to go to a new trainer. It's going to give him longer with a new trainer. Fury and Usyk could have 12 hard rounds that could take something off them, particularly Fury, another hard 12 rounder. And people were criticising him, and it just shows the world how people think you're great for taking step aside or not. And I remember the last time, because in the 90s, I was around the heavyweight scene a lot. In 96, I think it was, Lennox Lewis got $4 million for letting Tyson fight Bruce Seldon for the WBA title. Lewis had just come off the hard fight with Ray Mercer. And he was sort of like lauded for taking that money. What a great, and he, you know, he obviously never won it. He went and knocks out McCall, I think, his fight after Mercer. I'll have to check that, but that's what I think it was. And he got $4 million. That was the last high-profile heavyweight getting step aside. I just can't believe people were criticising Joshua for possibly taking this money. I don't know how you two feel about it.
I think it's because the fight was being so close, it's been talked about for so long that everyone's frustrated. So you sort of get angry that you're scared to fight him, scared to fight that. Even though that fight's not going to happen, I think everyone's fed up with whatever he does. He's not happy. No one's been happy that they didn't fight a year or so ago. So any other fight now is always going to be let's get the undisputed. Why don't you want to be involved in the undisputed fight? It looks like that people will see that as him trying to duck Fury. No, it's not, because all he's doing is just, like you said, saving himself for the inevitable. He still gets his shot, but is he hoping that Usyk beats Fury and then he gets Usyk again? Which, even though he gets schooled, he doesn't get beat up. And maybe against Fury, it might be both. Potentially. I don't know how they think it. I think he thinks he can beat them both, to be fair. I don't think he beats either one, my personal opinion, but he will believe he beats them both. But I think you're right, Tim. It's a smart move. And how do you turn down £50 million? I mean, how do you turn down £50 million for nothing? Or you can't.
We're staying on the theme. There can only be one. One what, Barry?
One undisputed and unified heavyweight champion of the world, and it's the same thing. Will we get to see that by the end of the year? And the only way that happens if Fury and White decide to step down, take the money, and wait for their turn. We've been so close, haven't we, over the last few years of getting the king of the world. Now we all think it's Tyson Fury. I think almost everyone will say that Tyson Fury is number one. There's always but he didn't fight him. He hasn't beat him. There's belts out there. And can we get that number one? And I think, we're close. Are we closer now than ever before? If there is talk that Joshua will step aside for the big money, if there is talk that White will step down and allow that fight to happen, can we be there? Will we see Usyk and the most unlikely of pair? Let's be honest. We wouldn't have thought maybe 4 years ago that these two would be fighting each other. But it could we actually see in the summer Fury and Usyk for the undisputed and unified? What do you think?
I think White's the fly in this.
Yeah.
Joshua is so big, isn't he? Joshua could insert a clause into a contract. Yeah, I'll step aside. I want X amount of dollars and I want a shot at the winner. White, what does White do then? White's not going to fight for the title then for another 18 months. I think White's got to press his case, hasn't he? For White's career, White's got to be the one who doesn't back down. We might get a Fury voluntary March while White's appealing, but White must be looking at this play out into the future and think, well, if Usyk and Fury fight in summer, Joshua's done a deal to get the winner at the end of the year. I'm not going to fight for another 18 months for the heavyweight title. I don't think White can let that happen. I think White might be the stumbling block.
Yeah, I think by the end of the week, from what I'm hearing, by Wednesday night, come Thursday, it will have sorted itself out, this picture. So by the end of the week, this round might have been overtaken with news. I think it's very, very hard for them to have this undisputed champion, Barry. I mean, it's wishful thinking. We would just love it, even though whoever won it, they will most probably get fragmented so quick because there'll be WBO mandatories, IBF mandatories. But we'd accept that just for one night to see a picture with all 4 belts over, with the 2 on each shoulder of a man. It would be, a picture we all want to see. I'm very, very skeptical of it because at the end of the day, it's obviously it's supposed to be coming from Saudi Arabia. This money for Tyson Fury to fight Oleksand Usyk. There's, even though there's a country, that's a hell of a lot of money to be found. Because even if White was to be placated and means him waiting until the middle of next year, they're still going to have to find £5 million for that. 15 million pounds for Joshua. What if someone like Fury says, hold on here, I'm not going to go in a fight where I'm not going to fight. He's getting 15 million not to fight me. I want more. These things happen. There's greed. And I think there's a long way to go before we see this happen or with all 4 belts on the line. I think our best chance is going ahead with Fury White March 26th or whenever. Joshua against Usyk in April, and then maybe by the end of the year we would get it. I think that's our best hope.
That's what I was just about to say. That unless these fights just happen and then we get there. Yeah.
But what happens if the purse bid goes on Wednesday? Frank Warren, top rank, win it. White's not happy with his 20%. Carries on appealing to get more of that purse bid. WBC will have to let Fury have an interim fight in March or someone, a keep busy fight. And then suddenly it's thrown back 6 months. It's just getting parked up more and more. John alludes to a lot in the podcast about how it gets, there's too much parking up. And the worst thing that maybe could happen would be Fury having a voluntary in end of March, because whatever happens then, we're not going to see him until the end of the year.
Yeah, and it kicks the mandatory down the road as well.
Yeah.
Or if White would have beat Fury, I wouldn't put any money on it, but if White would have beat Fury and he gets a rematch clause, because everyone loves a rematch clause, and then that goes on to the end of the year, and then so on and so forth. Or does Usyk have a rematch clause if he gets beat by Joshua? He gets another crown? If
he's a mandatory and it's purse bids, I doubt can there be a rematch clause? I'm not. I mean, if they did a deal with White by the
percentages have changed, haven't they?
Yeah.
And they mix they make their own rules up, don't they?
It should be. Was it 65-35 against an interim champion, but they're going 80-20 because of what the contracted purse was in White's
Joshua's got a rematch with Usyk, hasn't he? So there you go. The rules can be twisted to however you want them.
But there you are. Anyway, my final, I think we're a long way from it. And our best hope is that, White to fight Fury, Joshua to fight Usyk. But who knows, by Thursday, Friday, what I'm saying here could sound stupid.
Probably.
Yeah, I usually sound stupid. You've sat next to me for years and years and heard me sound stupid. What do you reckon, John? Are we going to get a unification by the end of the year for all 4 belts before we go?
Right, I'm going to be positive because Barry had a couple of positive ones. So I'm going to say yes. And I think in December we'll get Fury against Usyk for all the belts in the Middle East. There you go.
Proper casual, you are. Proper casual.
Yeah, proper casual.
Fellas, I know you've got to shoot off, Barry. You're either training someone, kicking someone up in the air, playing football. I don't know what you're doing, but you're up to something tonight. I'm guessing it's football, is it, tonight?
Dogging. Football, yeah. Football. I got my kit on there.
I tell you what, I was reading something the other day about the lack of Welsh footballers coming through.
Still time, Barry.
There's still time, Barry. The comeback is on.
Right, yeah. I speak to Joe Karzagi today. I was asking if he's interested in managing me on my comeback. He said no.
He's got a look at John Hartson, hasn't he, Steve?
He has got that little bit of Hartson there, and I'll tell you what Barry has got. He's definitely got that little thing. If you was on a pitch, you were playing a bit of five-a-side, John, because you play a bit of football, and you just put a little. If you was up against Barry and he got rid of the ball, and you put your rubber five-a-side studs just down the back of his calf, mate, I think he'd see red, and there'll be a red card for him. I'll guarantee you that, John.
You're getting
the veins in my head.
If you're playing against Barry, he's leaving something on you, isn't he, at some point?
Yeah, and if you leave something on him and he don't like it, that little miss will come for about 20 seconds. And you just hope in that 20 seconds he doesn't chin you, because after the 20 seconds, it'll be all right.
You're selling a really bad picture to me here.
I couldn't sell a bad picture. You're one of the best. You're one of my best pals in boxing. How can I paint a bad picture of you?
Are we right though? Are we right though, Barry?
What's that? Oh, mate,
are we right though?
They all cheat at any level. They cheat all the time. It drives me mad. Like, I'm rubbish. I'm the worst. I'm literally right. I'm the worst football player you ever met in your life. But I don't want to be good. I don't care. I just want to run around like an idiot. But like, they cheat all the time, and you run towards the ball. They push you before you get to the ball. And I'm like, but when I do it, it's a foul. But I do it like I push them over. But like, I'm like a tiny little man. Don't complain because I push you over. I'm so small. I can be a midget. Like, don't complain when I push you over when you've been pushing and kicking me all night. Oh yeah, I am aggressive. I realise. Sorry, I just realised I am aggressive.
If he messages me and he's chinned someone tonight on the football field, you're definitely getting the blame, John Evans. But fellas, thanks very much for tonight. Thanks, John, for rushing on.
I need someone to record it though when I do chin somebody. Because I have no footage of me hurting anyone in my whole career.
Don't say that. Fellas, thanks very much indeed. John, thanks for coming straight after work, mate. I know you was in a mad rush. Barry, enjoy your football tonight, mate. And thanks everyone for listening. Hope you've enjoyed Barry's words of wisdom and John's this tonight. Thanks very much.
For all boxing info, news and latest interviews, amateur and pro, across the north, click and subscribe. VIP Boxing Promotions. Also, Twitter, Instagram and Facebook.